The endless sky plains were vast beyond measure. Under the boundless heavens, waves of emerald grass rolled endlessly like a living ocean, swallowing all traces of roads and borders. To mortals, this was a land of freedom and abundance. Yet to those who truly understood it, the plains were a silent hunting ground where danger often descended without warning. On days when the day of spirit release drew near, the winds across the plains grew restless, carrying more than dust and the scent of grass. They carried greed, ambition, and the faint aura of bloodshed. Tribes large and small stirred caravans set forth, and unseen gazes followed every offering meant for the immortals. It was on such a day that a modest caravan quietly advanced through the northern reaches of the endless sky plains, unaware that fate had already turned its eyes upon them. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. With a low, commanding shout, the luminous barrier surrounding Han Li abruptly expanded, doubling in size. At the same moment, a streak of pure white light shot out from his sleeve, circling his body once before solidifying into the form of a small, snow-white fox. "Time is short. We'll split up and search for the Devil Essence diamonds," Han Li said swiftly. As he spoke, he flicked his wrist and sent a sphere of golden lightning flying toward the fox. A peal of thunder rang out as the lightning unfurled, weaving itself into a shimmering net that wrapped around her body. "Remember, this lightning will not last long," Han Li warned solemnly. "Once you sense it weakening, return immediately. We'll leave at once." "Yes," Master Silvermoon replied in her usual bright, clear voice. Then she hesitated slightly. "However, I do not know what Devil Essence diamonds look like." Before Han Li could respond, Monarch Soul Divergent spoke up with a calm chuckle. "Devil Essence diamonds are pitch-black gemstones saturated with astonishing devilish chi. They are unmistakable at a glance." "That will suffice then. I'm heading off." Silvermoon nodded. Silver light flashed across her fox body, and in the next instant she vanished straight into the ground, leaving no trace behind. Han Li did not linger either. With a wave of the jade scepter in his hand, a layer of yellow light spread over his protective barrier, and his figure silently sank into the floor as if swallowed by the earth itself. In the blink of an eye, the platform above was left utterly empty. Time passed slowly. The platform remained deathly still, yet it gradually became engulfed in dense, pitch-black, devilish chi. Endless darkness billowed like a living tide, conjuring the chilling image of the netherworld itself. Not long after, a flash of golden light pierced the gloom. Han Li emerged from the ground and swept his gaze across his surroundings. When he failed to spot Silvermoon, a faint crease appeared between his brows. Lowering his gaze, he relaxed his clenched fist. Resting in his palm was an exquisitely shaped pitch-black gem, roughly the size of his thumb. Monarch Soul Divergence laughed softly. "Just as I expected, Devil Essence diamonds truly exist here. Your luck is extraordinary. This was an object ancient Devil Dao cultivators could only dream of possessing. Even in antiquity, it was incomparably rare. So precious," Han Li murmured. Narrowing his eyes, he studied the gem more carefully. The gemstone emitted no light whatsoever. Instead, its absolute darkness was strangely tranquil, yet profoundly unsettling. For a brief instant, Han Li felt as though his consciousness was being drawn into its depths. His heart jolted, and he immediately withdrew his gaze, not daring to look further. At that moment, a ripple of silver light burst forth beneath him. A silver fox, wrapped in faint golden lightning, shot out from the ground and darted straight into Han Li's light barrier. "If you'd taken any longer, I would have come looking for you myself," Silvermoon exclaimed. "I thought you'd return before me. Did you find something?" With a casual sweep of his hand, Han Li drew the small fox into his arms. Silvermoon said nothing. Instead, she opened her mouth and spat out 3 pitch-black gems, each one unmistakably a Devil Essence diamond. "Excellent, excellent." Delight flickered across Han Li's face. Silvermoon seemed to smile faintly before dissolving into a streak of silver light and slipping back into his sleeve. Han Li gathered the 3 gems along with his own and carefully placed all 4 into a single jade box. "We can't linger any longer. Han Li muttered. Almost immediately, the golden lightning around his body began to tremble violently, followed by a thunderous boom. His figure slowly rose upward. His ascent was unhurried. After a quarter of an hour, he finally reached the white light barrier above. Throughout the entire journey, he never once made use of the devil-warding treasures provided by the three great cultivators. Passing through the barrier that suppressed the devilish Qi, Han Li fully withdrew his divine devil-bane lightning. Yet instead of leaving immediately, he paused, glanced downward and slapped his storage pouch, producing a damaged dark green banner. Silvermoon let out a startled cry. Yi! Isn't this the ghost-sifting banner? Although the devil heads and yin ghosts bound to it were completely destroyed, the banner itself remains intact. It's a rare devil Dao treasure, Han Li explained calmly. I once heard that it can absorb ghostly qi to restore itself. Devilish qi and ghostly qi are both manifestations of worldly yin, and they share certain similarities. With such pure devilish qi here, it's the perfect opportunity to test whether it can be restored. Even if it fails, nothing is lost. As he spoke, blue light flared around his hands, wrapping around the small banner. With a flick of his fingers, it shot downward in an azure streak, plunging into the sea of devilish qi. Countless threads of black qi surged forward, instantly engulfing the ghost-sifting banner. The azure light surrounding it was devoured without resistance. Seeing this, Han Li swiftly formed a hand seal and pointed downward. The lifeless banner suddenly pulsed with green light, then expanded violently under his control. In the blink of an eye, it grew into a tattered banner 3 meters tall, its damage from the aureate sword formation still clearly visible. From the memories of the Yin sifting sect, Elder Han Li had already acquired the method to control the banner. Like its counterparts, it was a legacy treasure passed down through countless generations, requiring no blood refinement to recognize a master. Though classified as a demonic treasure, it could be wielded by anyone who refined it properly. Han Li began chanting an incantation. Suddenly, a hole more than a meter wide opened before the banner from which fierce yin winds howled. The surrounding devilish qi immediately surged forward, streaming into the opening at a terrifying speed. Han Li's eyes lit up. Just as he expected, the banner could indeed absorb devilish qi. As the qi poured in, the banner visibly repaired itself. Crack-sealed tears vanished, and before long it appeared flawless once more. However, its original green color had been deeply stained with black. Han Li watched closely, surprise flickering across his eyes. Even after fully restoring itself, the banner continued to devour devilish qi as though it were a bottomless abyss. The more it absorbed, the more black radiance spread across its surface, steadily overtaking the green. Though astonished, Han Li remained calm, observing from a distance without interrupting. After an indeterminate amount of time, the ghost-sifting banner finally released a series of low hums. The hole before it vanished, and the banner was now completely enveloped in dazzling black light. Han Li pointed at it. Instantly, the banner shrank back to its original size and shot upward as a streak of black radiance, landing neatly in his grasp. After a brief inspection, Han Li nodded in satisfaction and stowed it away. He would have to find an opportunity to test its power in the future. Having delayed long enough, Han Li dared not waste any more time. He summoned his flying swords, which revolved around him in a sharp ring as they tore through the dense spiritual qi above, carrying him swiftly toward the surface. Above the whirlpool, the three great cultivators waited in silence. Though their expressions appeared calm, a trace of unease lingered in their eyes, betraying their concern that Han Li might have failed. Suddenly, an azure streak of light shot out from the whirlpool. Relief washed over their faces. Fellow Taoist, Han, how did it go? Was everything successful? Master Sunreach asked eagerly. The task is complete. The formation plate has been securely placed, Han Li replied with a faint smile. Excellent. Wei Wuya retrieved an identical formation plate and began testing it. White light blossomed from its surface, followed by streams of radiant rainbow light. You installed it perfectly, Wei Wuya said with a genial grin. We can now summon the other cultivators to restore the grand formation. With the plate in place, we no longer need to worry about sudden surges of devilish qi. We owe much to fellow Taoist Han. Since the matter is resolved, I must take my leave, Han Li said. I have several urgent affairs to attend to. As he spoke, he returned the 4 devil-warding treasures. The 3 great cultivators exchanged glances, clearly surprised by his sudden departure. There's no need to be so hasty, Master Sunreach urged. Why not stay at the 7 Spirit Islands for a few days? I appreciate your kindness, Brother Sunreach, but I truly cannot delay, Han Li replied regretfully. Very well. Since Brother Han has pressing matters, we won't detain you. Safe travels, Wei Wuya said with a salute. I take my leave. Han Li cupped his fists, azure light enveloping his body as he streaked across the heavens. Half a month later, Han Li returned to the Drifting Cloud sect. After informing his senior brothers about the Spirit Island granted to the sect, he prepared to enter seclusion. This time he was not cultivating his magic power, but completing the refinement of his second nascent soul. Once accomplished, his strength would increase dramatically, and he would gain an additional life. The wood spirit nascent soul had already reached the stage of assimilation and was on the verge of fully transforming into his second nascent soul. Naturally, before sealing himself away, Han Li first checked on Nangong Wan's condition. After the recent series of great upheavals, the Heavenly South cultivation world finally entered another period of calm. The various sects and clans seized this rare peace to nurture their disciples and quietly accumulate strength. 4 years after Han Li entered seclusion, Silver Moon stood outside the sealed cultivation chamber in her human form, waiting respectfully. The day before, while tending to the spirit medicines nourished by the green liquid, she'd received a voice transmission from Han Li instructing her to wait for his emergence. She did not have to wait long. The stone door of the seclusion chamber finally let out a low groan and slowly opened. Yet when Silver Moon lifted her head and peered inside, she did not see Han Li. Instead, a fierce black yin wind burst forth from within. Accompanied by a muffled chuckle, a 3-meter-wide cloud of black mist rolled outward, drifting straight toward her. Silver Moon's face drained of color. She hastily retreated several steps, staring at the black cloud in shock. Just as quickly as it had surged forward, the cloud halted mid-air, then began to emit a faint silky sheen, as though it were woven from strands of black silk. This is, Silver Moon's thoughts stirred violently. The black cloud suddenly compressed, condensing into an inch-tall nascent soul tinged with black and green. It opened its mouth and spoke. Well, I suppose my second nascent soul reaching this stage can be considered a success. Congratulations on Master's great achievement. Silver Moon smiled sweetly and performed a respectful curtsy toward the nascent soul. Aside from being slightly smaller, it looked identical to Han Li's original nascent soul. A familiar voice then sounded from within the chamber. It surprised even me that I was able to complete the second nascent soul so quickly. Still, it does feel somewhat strange now that it's finished. Han Li stepped out from the secluded room as he spoke. At that moment, the black-green nascent soul grinned, circled Han Li once in mid-air, and lightly settled atop his head. Silver Moon examined Han Li carefully before smiling. It's only natural to feel unusual after acquiring a second nascent soul. With time, Master will grow accustomed to it. Oh, Han Li raised an eyebrow. From your tone, it sounds like you know something about possessing a second nascent soul. Did you recall something? Silver Moon paused briefly before answering. It isn't very clear. I don't know why I said it either. Perhaps I once knew of a similar technique in the past. Han Li nodded lightly at her explanation and said nothing further. At that moment, the nascent soul sitting atop his head casually waved its hand, summoning a small banner and idly playing with it. It was none other than the ghost-sifting banner that had absorbed vast amounts of devilish qi. Seeing this, Silver Moon couldn't help but stare in surprise. Could it be that Master's second nascent soul is cultivating a devil Dao art? It's only natural for the second nascent soul to cultivate something extraordinary. Han Li replied calmly. However, since it does not yet possess its own body, it cannot cultivate an entirely new technique on its own. For now, I'm using my body and the devilish chi stored within the ghost-sifting banner to allow it to cultivate several transformation techniques from the profound yin art. As for whether I'll grant it a physical body in the future, I haven't decided yet. He frowned slightly. Once it possesses a body, there is always the risk of backlash or even betrayal. I must proceed cautiously. Han Li then lightly patted his head. In a flash of black light, the second nascent soul vanished into his skull without leaving the slightest trace. Through his spiritual sense, Han Li could clearly see within himself. Both his primary nascent soul and his second nascent soul were seated cross-legged in his dantian, facing one another in silent meditation. Silvermoon tilted her head slightly and said, "Master's caution is well-founded. I've never heard of the profound nascent formation arts. Most incarnation techniques merely divide one's attention. As for higher-grade incarnations, like the Mulan Divine Sage Zhong's, they require forcibly splitting the primal soul, a truly terrifying ability." Haha, Han Li chuckled. Those incarnation techniques don't truly increase one's strength. They're mainly used for survival or overwhelming numbers. Still, they are formidable in their own right. He waved his hand dismissively. Enough of that. Did anything noteworthy occur while I was in seclusion? With that, he gestured for Silvermoon to follow and walk toward the main hall. Silvermoon followed closely behind with light steps. 1 year after Master entered seclusion, Lady Mew successfully formed her core. As instructed, I passed the copulation essence arts to her, along with several pills suitable for a core formation cultivator. She continued, as for Lady Nangong, she remains safe within the restricted area. The demon beast core continues to weaken the soul seal curse day by day. In my estimation, even without the removal incantation, the curse should dissipate within another 100 years, though that is only my speculation. Master should examine her personally. Han Li's heart lifted at the good news. Just as he was about to ask further questions, Silvermoon added, "There is one more matter I must report. The 6-winged frost centipedes have been continuously fed rainbow skirt grass over the years. They should have grown and laid eggs by now, but for some unknown reason their growth suddenly stalled. They've only molted once and show no signs of reproduction." Molted. Han Li halted mid-step, his expression turning peculiar. Silvermoon bit her lip and slowed as well. Yes, after molting, they became much stronger. Moreover, they've grown irritable as if preparing to molt once again. "Take me to see them," Han Li said with a frown, changing direction toward the insect chambers. Moments later, he arrived before one of the rooms and peered inside. Before he could clearly see anything, a blast of frigid chi swept past him. The entire chamber was encased in glittering ice. Several ice mounds of varying sizes filled the room, each riddled with deep tunnels. Snow-white streaks, roughly half a foot long, darted about restlessly. Having been blood-imprinted to Han Li long ago, the centipedes immediately recognized him. They became excited, rushing toward him and clinging to the walls closest to his position. With a flick of his sleeve, Han Li opened the chamber's restrictions. Several inch-sized spheres of white light floated toward him. He deftly caught one and lifted it before his eyes. It was a larva, its body entirely snow-white. Aside from 2 small protrusions on its back, it looked no different from the last time he had seen it. Han Li examined it silently for a moment, while Silvermoon stood beside him, saying nothing. Suddenly, Han Li extended a finger toward the larva's mouth. Blue flames crackled to life at his fingertip. The centipede larva opened its mouth and spat out a thin strand of glacial qi. The qi wrapped around the blue flame, causing it to swell several times its original size before completely engulfing it. Han Li slowly closed his eyes, sensing carefully. After a moment, he opened them again. "It seems you were right. They've grown significantly stronger after molting. There isn't much difference between reproducing through cannibalism and continuous molting." With a flick of his finger, the blue flame vanished. "It's not surprising they've stopped devouring one another," Han Li continued calmly. "Ancient insects are all strange anomalies. Perhaps they can only reproduce a limited number of times, or perhaps the rainbow skirt grass has altered their bodies. Either way, it isn't a problem, as long as we can continue maturing them with the green liquid. Silver Moon finally relaxed, letting out a soft sigh before smiling. Master's words put my heart at ease. Hanli ignored her charm and walked back toward the main hall, speaking thoughtfully. I've rested sufficiently during my seclusion. It's time we head to the great Jin Empire. Whether it's to dispel the baleful qi lingering on my body or to search for rare materials, the journey is unavoidable. Moreover, no matter how effective the ancient flame toad's demon core may be at dissolving the soul seal curse, I'm still uneasy about Wana. I should visit the yin sifting sect and obtain the incantation myself. He paused briefly. With a second nascent soul now formed, I'm better prepared to face the dangers awaiting me in Great Jin. So that's how it is. Silver Moon smiled. With Master's abilities, there should be very few cultivators capable of matching you. The cultivation world is filled with miraculous treasures and unfathomable techniques. Nothing is ever certain, Hanli replied. Furthermore, I'm already at odds with the Devil Dao cultivators of the Yin Sifting sect. If they learn of my arrival, trouble will surely follow. Caution is paramount. I'll first check on Wana, then visit Senior Marshal Brother Cheng. Afterward, I'll see if I can gather the remaining materials for the puppets and the seven-flame fan. If all goes smoothly, we'll depart in half a month. Yes, Master, Silver Moon replied brightly. I've always wanted to see the great Jin Empire, the legendary holy land of cultivators. With that, the hall fell silent once more. Half a month later, an azure streak shot out from the Dream Cloud Mountains, flying swiftly southward. Not long after, well-informed cultivators learned that Elder Han of the Drifting Cloud sect had departed on a distant journey. The details were unknown. Some speculated he was roaming the heavenly south, while others believed he had left it entirely. The news caused a brief stir throughout the region before calm returned once again. Hanli's departure brought no immediate upheaval. The ancient sword sect and 100 possibilities, Pavilion of Dream Cloud Mountain, continued treating the Drifting Cloud sect with sincerity, making no hostile moves and allowing it to retain its status as the foremost sect of the state of Qi. As the years quietly passed, old cultivators reached the end of their lifespans, while new figures rose to fill the void. The cycle of the heavenly south cultivation world began anew. As for Han Li, all traces of him vanished from the heavenly south. For more than 100 years, not a single word was heard of his whereabouts. A caravan of roughly 30 men was making its way across the wilderness, where grasslands stretched endlessly to the horizon. Among them were 8 carriages escorted by young horsemen clad in leather. Some of these youths were no more than 12 years old, yet despite their tender age, their spirits were high. At the very front of the caravan rode an elderly man atop a fine yellow horse. Deep creases marked his brow, and his dark red skin bore the unmistakable traces of long years beneath wind and sun. He wore a fire-red fox fur cap, richly ornamented robes, and a tricolored embroidered belt, clear symbols of his status as the leader of the group. They were traveling through the northern reaches of the endless sky plains, bound for a temple of the soaring tribes to offer tribute. The endless sky plains were what the soaring tribes called the Mulan Plains. According to their beliefs, their patron deity, the endless sky beast, had protected them across countless generations, and the land bore its name in reverence. Originally, the soaring tribes had occupied only the southern portion of the endless sky plains. However, following their victory over the Mulan 30 years prior, they seized control of the entire region. Their strength surged dramatically, leaving no rival capable of challenging their dominance across the plains. Naturally, the soaring tribes were vast beyond measure and consisted of countless subordinate tribes. Smaller tribes numbered around 100,000 people, while the largest boasted populations nearing 100 million. In the aftermath of the war, many warriors earned merit and numerous new tribes emerged as a result. Most of these newly formed tribes were insignificant, consisting of only tens of thousands. The master of this caravan was named Ying Lu. He was the leader of a small tribe that had once split off from a larger one. Though called a tribe, it numbered only around 80,000 people. In his youth, Ying Lu had been a formidable warrior. During the war, he had slain members of several minor Mulan tribes, captured numerous nobles, and earned his current rank through blood and valor. Yet time spared no one. Years of battle and hardship had taken their toll. Though only 50 years old, Ying Lu already looked aged and worn. He raised his gaze toward the blazing sun overhead, noting that it was already noon. Then he turned to look at the young men riding behind him and let out a quiet sigh. Regardless of size, every tribe was required to regularly present tribute to the immortals, lest calamity or demonic beasts descend upon them. However, newly established minor tribes like his own lacked the influence to summon immortals at will. Even the lowest-grade immortals were reluctant to watch over tribes so small. After all, it was far more beneficial to associate with wealthy and powerful tribes that could provide ample resources to aid cultivation. There were indeed a few small tribes that possessed low-grade immortals, but those immortals were either natives of the tribe or cultivators with such poor aptitude that they were unable to join greater factions. As for Ying Lu's Grey Heron tribe, they had never possessed the means to nurture an immortal of their own. Whenever disaster struck, they could only hire immortals from neighboring tribes at an exorbitant cost. These immortals would assist them only a handful of times, charging fees equivalent to half a year's revenue. For a tribe that was already poor, such expenses pushed them to the brink. Fortunately, 20 years had passed, and the day of spirit release had finally arrived once more for their tribe. Ying Lu treated this opportunity with utmost care and refused to let it slip by again. He personally led several promising youths of the tribe toward the nearest temple of the soaring tribes. The Endless Sky Temples were originally erected to honor the Endless Sky Beast. Over time, however, they evolved into sacred sites of the soaring tribes and became the primary places where low-grade immortals were fostered. Each temple was overseen by several high-grade immortals whose duty was to impart basic cultivation methods. Cultivators of mediocre aptitude would then be sent back to their tribes for continued support, while those of exceptional talent were accepted as personal disciples and nurtured directly. However, before receiving such instruction, all candidates had to undergo the spirit release rite. Across the vast plains, there were only about 70 Endless Sky temples. Each one served as the heart of its region, surrounded by thousands of tribes of varying sizes. Since there was only one temple in their region, the largest tribes resided nearby, while smaller ones like the Grey Heron tribe lived much farther away. Their journey alone required at least 3 months, forcing them to depart 4 months in advance to account for unforeseen dangers. On the previous day of spirit release, Ying Lu had already established his tribe but lacked sufficient tribute to present. All he could do was watch helplessly as the opportunity passed. This time he refused to allow history to repeat itself. For the sake of this day, he had reduced the tribe's rations and cut countless expenses, determined to secure an immortal protector at all costs. Yet transporting the tribute across the endless grasslands was perilous. The offerings consisted of materials coveted by immortals and priceless to mortals. Robbery was a constant threat, sometimes even at the hands of immortals themselves. Such incidents were common whenever the day of spirit release approached. Tribes closer to the temple faced fewer dangers, as few dared to act recklessly near sacred ground. But for distant tribes like theirs, the journey was fraught with peril. It was said that a mid-grade tribe once possessed a 1,000-year spirit herb as tribute. When news leaked, a high-grade immortal from a powerful sect plundered it outright. Although the temple immortals were enraged and dispatched someone to investigate, no one knew how the matter ultimately ended. Recalling such stories, Ying Lu had been anxious ever since leaving his tribe. Though he carried the tribute, he lacked the protection of an immortal. As the day of spirit release drew nearer, immortals across the plains were occupied with temple affairs. Even those willing to pay with spirit stones found no one available. Occasionally, wandering immortals appeared only to be swiftly hired by major tribes at staggering prices. Weaker tribes had no chance to compete. Thinking of this, Ying-Lu sighed once more and glanced behind him. 4 of the 8 carriages carried the tribute, each pulled by the strongest and most carefully selected steeds of the tribe. The carriages themselves were constructed from hardy red birchwood. To avoid drawing attention, however, their exteriors were deliberately made to look old and worn. Even so, danger had already found them. They had encountered a pack of feral wolves and nearly lost one of their men. To escape, they were forced to abandon the 2 slowest carriages. Though those carriages carried nothing particularly valuable, they held enough provisions to last 2 months. Now it seemed inevitable that they would have to make a temporary stop within 2 days. There should be a secluded valley nearby, rarely visited by humans, where they might hunt wild bison or other game. With this in mind, Ying-Lu unconsciously stroked the hardwood bow hanging from his saddle. What's that?" A young woman beside him cried out in alarm. She was 15 years old. Named Ying Shan, a relative of Ying-Lu and one of the few in the tribe who possessed spirit roots. Naturally, Ying-Lu doted on her greatly. Ying-Lu immediately looked up and saw waves of azure light flickering within dense shrubbery ahead. His heart lurched. As a tribal leader, he was well acquainted with the glow of immortal techniques. Could it be that someone intended to prey upon a caravan as destitute as theirs? His heart sank. He raised a hand, signaling the caravan to halt. The moment the others noticed the azure light, they grew tense and wary. Ying-Lu tightened his grip on the reins, bringing his horse to a stop as he hastily formulated a plan of defense. Yet after a brief moment, he sensed something amiss. The azure light continued to flicker, but no immortal emerged, nor were any techniques unleashed. His eyes brightened slightly. He focused his gaze on the shrubbery ahead. The thick grass stood nearly as tall as a man, obscuring whatever lay within. After a brief hesitation, Ying-Lu shouted to Meng, "Go and check whether there is an immortal there." "Yes, tribe elder." A sturdy young man dismounted and cautiously approached the shrubbery 60 meters away. When he reached within 20 meters of the flickering light, he stopped, hesitating. "May I ask for the immortal's honored name?" 2 men called out respectfully. "We are of the Grey Heron tribe and wish to pay our respects." The light continued to flicker. No response came. 2 men glanced back at Ying-Lu. After a moment of contemplation, Ying-Lu silently nodded. Summoning his courage, Tumeng advanced with careful steps. Upon reaching the shrubbery, he gritted his teeth and parted the wild grass before him. "Ah!" At that instant, Tumeng pushed aside the tall grass and let out a startled cry. He recoiled several steps in panic, stumbling backward before falling flat onto the ground. His face was pale with shock. "What's going on?" The members of the Grey Heron tribe were shaken by this sudden turn of events. Several of them instinctively drew their weapons, gripping them tightly. "Don't act recklessly," Ying-Lu barked. Though alarmed, he remained composed. Seeing that Tumeng was unharmed, merely frightened, he continued, "Tumeng, what happened?" "Tribe head, there's an immortal there. He looks—" Before the youth could finish his sentence, the azure light within the shrubbery abruptly vanished. A cold snort rang out, cutting him off. Then a figure strode out from the thicket. "Looks like what?" the man asked coolly. Ying-Lu and the others stared in astonishment. The man wore plain white robes and had an unremarkable build. However, a peculiar blue cloak was pulled low over his head, concealing his face entirely. Bulging pouches hung at his waist, and a foot-long wooden box was strapped to his back. "I pay my respects, immortal." Ying-Lu immediately dismounted and bowed deeply. "I am Ying-Lu, leader of the Grey Heron tribe. May I know your esteemed name?" The rest of the tribe members followed suit, bowing respectfully and not daring to show the slightest offense. The white-robed man slowly swept his gaze over the group before replying indifferently, "My surname is Han. The Grey Heron tribe. I've never heard of it. I was cultivating within the thicket." "Why have you come here?" "So it is Immortal Han," Ying-Lu said hastily. "We truly had no idea that you were cultivating here. Please forgive us for any disturbance we may have caused. Might I ask which tribe you serve, sir? Perhaps I am acquainted with them." Hearing that the immortal had no immediate hostile intent, Yinglu finally felt a trace of relief. The white-robed man's eyes flickered beneath the cloak. I only recently completed my apprenticeship. I am not attached to any tribe. Ah, Yinglu's eyes lit up. So Immortal Han is currently unaffiliated. Since you are traveling alone, you must also be heading toward the temple. Today is the Day of Spirit Release, an event that occurs only once every 20 years. Surely Immortal Han would not miss such an occasion. That is correct, the white-robed man replied simply. He then glanced toward the carriages behind them and asked with mild curiosity, "You are also heading to the temple to present tribute? I don't see any immortals escorting you." "Our Grey Heron tribe is small," Yinglu explained respectfully. "We have yet to nurture an immortal of our own." As such, at that moment, Yinglu became fully convinced that the man's words were genuine. Otherwise, he would not have asked such a question. With this realization, a long-suppressed thought surged to the forefront of his mind. After a brief pause, the white-robed man waved his hand dismissively. "Since this was unintentional, I will overlook the matter. Leave." Yinglu had originally feared this immortal, but now he steeled his resolve. Taking a deep breath, he suddenly smiled and spoke up, "Sir Immortal, since you are also heading to the temple, would you be willing to accept the hire of the Grey Heron tribe? If you accompany us, we are willing to offer 20 spirit stones." "Hire me?" The white-robed man sounded surprised. "Yes," Yinglu replied earnestly. "Since you are traveling to the temple, regardless, you might as well come with us. Without an immortal guarding us, I fear we may not safely reach our destination. The road is filled with danger. It would be slow to travel with mortals," the white-robed man said hesitantly. "And 20 spirit stones is—" Yinglu gave a bitter smile. "If Sir Immortal agrees, I am willing to offer 25 spirit stones. To be honest, our tribe is small. This is the utmost we can afford." The white-robed man chuckled. 25 spirit stones is indeed tempting. But shouldn't you first ask about my cultivation? What if I'm only at the second or third layer of chi condensation and incapable of protecting you? Yinglu forced a laugh. "Sir Immortal jests. Though I lack spirit roots, I've gained much experience during the Holy War. The light you released earlier is far beyond what a low-level chi condensation cultivator could produce." After a moment's thought, the white-robed man nodded. "Very well. Since you are sincere, I'll journey with you. I'll take half the spirit stones now. The rest can be paid upon arrival." "Of course. Here they are, Sir Immortal." Yinglu was overjoyed. He quickly retrieved a small pouch, selected the spirit stones, and presented them respectfully. The stones vanished in a flash of light the moment the white-robed man accepted them, causing several youths to cry out in surprise. "What? You've never seen a storage pouch before?" the white-robed man asked in mild surprise. "Please forgive them," Yinglu said awkwardly. "These youths have little experience with immortals." "So that's the case." The man nodded, then glanced at the carriages with slight hesitation. Having dealt with immortals before, Yinglu immediately shouted quickly, "Prepare the best carriage for Immortal Han, so he may rest and cultivate. Hurry." The youths snapped out of their daze and swiftly unloaded one carriage, redistributing its cargo among the others. Once finished, the white-robed man said calmly, "Thank you for your thoughtfulness. I'll rest in the carriage. Call me if anything happens. And since I'm already fasting, there's no need to disturb me unless necessary." "Of course." Yinglu bowed deeply, smiling broadly. The white-robed man nodded and strode toward the carriage. After taking a few steps, he suddenly turned and coldly addressed Tu Meng. "Did you see my face? I don't want rumors spreading. Keep it to yourself." Without waiting for a reply, he climbed into the carriage and drew the curtains shut. Tu Meng's face turned deathly pale. Even after the man disappeared, he continued shaking his head in silent fear. Yinglu raised his voice. "Now that we have an immortal escort, we may travel at ease. Move out." Turning to the young woman beside him, he added, "Yingshan follow Immortal Han's carriage. If he has any requests, obey them promptly. Serve him well." Yingshan nodded happily, understanding his meaning. As the caravan resumed its journey, the youths whispered excitedly among themselves, Although immortals occasionally handled affairs for the tribe, they always departed immediately afterward. Rarely did they have a chance to even see one, let alone travel alongside one. Inside the covered carriage, the white-robed man sat cross-legged, completely motionless. Hey, youngster Han. That little trick you used on the soaring tribes fellow frightened him quite badly. He might even have nightmares about it. An aged voice chuckled maliciously within his mind. The white-robed man ignored the mockery and asked calmly, "Senior, is the pestilence demon soul lock technique truly effective? I don't wish to turn into a monster driven solely by slaughter before I find a way to dispel this baleful chi." Rest assured, the aged voice replied lazily, "I originally devised that secret technique to suppress the backlash of the Great Development technique. It's equally effective at restraining baleful chi. However, I must warn you, the pestilence demons sealing your body are also suppressing your cultivation. Your current strength is at best mid-foundation establishment. Do not use your magic power recklessly under any circumstances." Han Lai replied gloomily, "That much is obvious. Still, I didn't expect the baleful chi backlash to occur so much sooner than you predicted, nor to be so violent." The aged voice snorted. "It's not that my estimate was wrong. You insisted on fighting other cultivators before dispersing the baleful chi, even damaging your vitality to the brink of death. Of course, the backlash would erupt. As for its ferocity, it's only natural given how deeply it accumulated within you. If not for the fact that you're helping me refine my puppet body, I wouldn't even bother assisting you." Needless to say, the two voices belong to Han Li and Monarch Soul Divergence. That's all for today's content. See you in the next part. Support me by becoming a member. It will give me more motivation. Thank you so much.